Hello everyone, welcome to Maritime SoftwareHub, the People podcast. Today I'm really excited to be joined by my colleague, Micha, who's been with us for a number of years now, and I've never had the opportunity to invite you on the show. So Micha, thank you so much for coming along. We're going to talk about obviously tips for managing a remote workforce, and we're going to hear your kind of point of view of what it's been like working fully remotely for us over the last 3 years, and also in your other roles. So why don't you please kind of give a quick overview of who you are and a bit more about your background, please.
Yep. Okay. So my name is Mika and I am based in the Philippines. It's like a mile away from Callum. So I started working as a fresh graduate in the corporate office setup a few years ago as a recruitment specialist, and then I transitioned to remote working 3 years ago, where I started working with Callum. So my role in this company started as someone who organized the database and make sure that the data and the information that we have are accurate. And then later on, I progressed as oh, sorry, I'm nervous. Oh,
To be
so
honest,
over
okay.
time, so over time, my role has expanded, and I now source as well for candidates and do some initial contacts. And then I became involved in recruitment marketing efforts where I do social media postings and then do the graphics for our social media pages. And then I think it's a great contribution to the team because I'm helping Callum in sourcing for candidates while also doing the marketing for our clients to our
Yeah,
client.
exactly. Yeah, no, it's been an incredibly helpful role you've been doing, and you've been doing extremely well. So it's been a pleasure to have working with you over the last few years. And actually, you're our longest serving employee, which is awesome. So you've seen kind of a few different iterations of Cordell Beaumont over the years, and yeah, just a huge thank you to you, obviously, for all your efforts, and it's a real pleasure working with you. Um, so yeah, what we're going to do is, as I mentioned, you're going to talk a little bit about your experiences, kind of working remotely, and share some
Mhm.
insights and tips for any other either kind of virtual assistants or team members working around the world remotely that perhaps don't get to go into an office and see kind of colleagues very regularly. And then I'm also going to share some of my insights and my experience of, I guess, kind of managing a team pretty
Mhm.
much fully remotely. We've been yeah, since 2022, after kind of lockdown, essentially, we've basically been a fully remote business. We've had
Mhm.
people in all over the world. In the Philippines, we've had 3 or 4 people now. We had
Mhm.
a recent lady in South Africa. So we're very familiar with the remote model. And at the same time, I've kind of always kept an office base, usually near to where I live, so we can have like go for our kind of UK based team members. We have a base and a hub to go to, normally 1 or 2 times a week. This is now, so I'm calling from our US new office in Tampa.
Mhm.
There seems to be constantly music playing in the background, so I really apologise if anyone can hear that. But if you can, you get a nice mix of country and rock and jazz and whatever. So if you can't hear it, you're missing out. But like either way, thank you again for joining us. So Mika, let's. So you obviously appreciate you telling us a bit about your background, and also your role with us,
Mhm.
which has been awesome. I mean, what? So you obviously kind of moved from the kind of corporate side into recruitment. So what is it that you kind of enjoy about working in the industry, the recruitment industry?
Like recruitment is a fast-paced and dynamic industry. It I find it more challenging, like when we have new roles and I need to start finding candidates, because I transitioned to this industry without any knowledge in maritime software, maritime technology. That's where I find it more challenging because I'm learning new things every day. And then when we have new roles, I'm learning about the company, learning about the role so I can find the right candidate. So in this industry, I also learned how to continuously build relationships with candidates and then improve my communication skills.
Yeah. Brilliant, good. And it has been I mean, for any business, people coming into essentially a new industry can be a real
Yeah.
challenge. And our markets are so kind of niche. I mean, I'm obviously
Yeah.
from the shipbroking background, and my family were brokers and things, so I've kind of had a good insight and hands-on experience. But if you're coming in cold, it can really be a bit of a challenge to understand the intricacies. Um, and Mika has been a huge sort of played a big factor in how we categorize our candidates' backgrounds and skills and the markets we work in. So some obviously candidates might be more from I don't know, for example, a vessel performance focused background, and they have
Mm-hmm.
more of a technical marine engineering type of skill set or education. So they would more likely be perhaps more suitable for software providers that are focusing on decarbonisation or emissions
Yeah.
monitoring, that type of thing. So you've quickly learned that, okay, so these types of candidates are more sorted to these type of clients, whereas other candidates more from perhaps a commercial shipping background like chartering or broking are perhaps more
Mm-hmm.
suited to some of our pre fixture or commodities insights type of clients. So it's been a good learning curve, and definitely you've picked it up incredibly quickly. So it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess for if we move on a little bit now to kind of, I guess your day to day and what a week looks like for you. I know we have our set structure, but why don't you tell us a bit about kind of, I guess, kind of the hours you work and the days and how you what it looks like a day to day, general day for you.
I don't work full time. I only work part time with Callum. And on a day-to-day basis, what it looks like is I start with looking at emails and then go to our company database and look at live vacancies we have and then check what needs sourcing, what needs help. So I categorize that as priority. For example, we have two new roles. I look for the one that is very recent and high priority. Then I start working on that. I time block each roles. And then if I have more time in the afternoon, I usually spend it on the recruitment marketing efforts or database management, updating the candidate information. And then on the other days, I also have specific time and day to launch email campaigns and then stay in contact with other candidates.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Yeah, so Mika works typically Monday to Thursday, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And although I'm now in the US, the whole time, our time we're just adjusting to our new structure and things. So when I was in the UK, it was 8 a.m. UK my time to 2 p.m.
Yeah.
UK time.
Hmm.
So not normally 6 hour days. Um, and yeah, so when we have our retained search projects, which is generally a recruitment process whereby we are a client has essentially we're running an executive search for a specific role, usually like a mid to senior kind of key strategic hire. Um, Mika is very involved in that, so we would work together with the rest of the team, and we would create a market map of candidates. So we use
Hmm.
tools like Google Sheets and other sort of special recruitment platforms to be able to create lists of candidates that are in specific companies that we can then share and I can present to clients essentially. So your role in that has been awesome. So you're doing lots of research of finding different candidates and employees that are suitable within those target companies and sectors. So that's been really good. And what type of tools do you tend to use, or I guess productivity tools do you tend to use kind of throughout your week?
For productivity tools, I just use a timer because I'm using the Pomodoro technique. I'm gonna share this with you. Like,
Yeah.
the Pomodoro technique is like you work for 25 hours, 25 minutes straight. It's like an interval, 25 minutes straight, and then you'll take a 5 minute break. That's what I'm using. So in order to avoid burnout. And then next, aside from that, is I also use Slack to communicate with the team. and then Microsoft Teams for video calls, and then aside from that, just the tools that we use for the business.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize you did that. That's a very good idea. I might try adopting that as well.
Yeah,
Um, how do you spell it? Palmetto.
Pomodoro.
Okay, Pomodoro. Okay, I understand. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Good. Okay, brilliant. And then I guess in terms of tasks, you mentioned how you prioritize them. And this is quite hard in recruitment because you probably find that okay, a new role is in, let's say, and then you have other live roles that may still need kind of CVs to be sent to them or tasks assigned to them. So it is hard to know what to prioritize because yes, you might have a new role in, but that role may not be kind of as urgent as one of the other hires. We may not
Mhm.
have like it may not obviously be if it's an executive search or a retained search, that takes priority over everything because a client has essentially paid us an initial search deposit to start a process and start kind of doing a very thorough search. So that will go above everything. Um, so a lot of clients may not realize that when we have different multiple searches underway, we have to prioritize the most fillable roles. And also that can be kind of categorized by engagement with clients. Like we have some
Mhm.
clients that we speak to regularly all the time, but actually when we have vacancies, we send CVs and we have to chase. It takes a week or so to get feedback, and it's slow. Which for you,
Mhm.
doing your role where you've spent a lot of time in searching, and I've obviously spent a lot of time speaking to candidates and searching as well, can be demoralizing to a point, I imagine. Um, so yeah, so we try and always prioritize those mostly engaged, those more likely to fill roles as much as possible. So you mentioned Slack, so we use that, don't we? We use that every day.
Mhm. Yeah.
Teams we use for I mean, every Monday and Thursday we have our kind of kickoff call. You and I and the whole
Mhm.
team goes on that. And on those calls, we run through the vacancies, as you mentioned. We look
Yeah.
through your email marketing campaigns, um, and hopefully you find those use. Do you find those useful? Those kind of regular check-ins at certain structured points.
Yeah, definitely. Because I love how I can structure my day based on our conversations. Because sometimes I tend to overlook some information, and then during our meetings, I'm reminded of what I need to do so I can create my to-do lists.
Good. Yeah, exactly. And it just helps. Yeah, I find it help very useful just to see, yeah, how everyone is doing, obviously, and then just set a plan for the week. So then when it gets to Thursday, we
Yeah.
know we can check and see how we've done. And in recruitment, the day changes so quickly. As soon as a new role comes in or an interview's booked, or we send CVs out for one role, it means, okay, cool, let's now shift the focus back onto one of the other roles, essentially. So it's always changing. Um, good. And I guess so with you being obviously fully remote, what sort of challenges do you typically face kind of like, over the last couple of years, generally that either you have experienced or maybe someone else doing a similar role might experience?
Mm-hmm. So my main challenge is really like the work-life balance, because it's easy to blur the line between the personal and the work. Because I work at home, and then my desk is at home, and then my desk is on my room. So it's on my room, and then my bed is on my room. So it's easy to go, oh, I'll work in this time, and then sleep at this time. So when I started working remotely, I set myself to have clear working hours and stick to a routine. So I'll be more productive, and then also give myself a chance to recharge. So aside from that, I saw myself as an extrovert before I started working remotely. And then when I started working at home, I feel like I became an introvert, and I don't want to reach out to other people now. Just like I enjoy being with myself, and it changed. I changed a lot working remotely. Yeah,
That's
because it
really
sometimes,
interesting. Sorry, what were you going to say?
because it sometimes feel lonely,
Yeah, no,
and like my workmates are fun.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
And that's the big point we're going to discuss. It really is, yeah, the mental health side of working remotely is extremely important and often overlooked, unfortunately. I mean, we see it all the time when we speak to candidates and when we're trying to dig into why they're perhaps thinking about making a career change. And often it is because they're based in a satellite office, or they're in a location where there's no physical office, or even team members, sometimes even in their continent. They're literally the only person in Europe or in Asia and stuff. So it really, I do understand it, and obviously I've worked
yeah,
quite a hybrid a lot over the years, and you can get lost in your own thoughts and feel a little bit sort of, as you said, isolated and lonely. So it's really important that we have those check-ins, and that's why I mean, we have it with our team. So every day, at the end of every day, we always have I mean, we use Slack as we mentioned. So we do our 3 key wins at the end of the
yeah,
day, where we just put like just bullet points, normally 3 or 4, however many wins, just key wins for the day. And it just means we share that with our kind of CB team Slack channel, so everyone sees it, and then you get an idea of, okay, what have they achieved today? Not necessarily just duties, but actual kind of wins that kind of move the needle and help drive us forward. So that's really good. Yeah, okay. No, I do understand that, and I think people do get a little bit sort of, as you said, like introverted after a while, not necessarily going out and mixing with as many people. So I understand that. Um, and I mean, do you have any kind of tips that you kind of, yeah, that maybe kind of help overcome that sort of feeling, or anything else? Any other tips for remote workers at all?
For remote workers, because I've been working for 3 years now remotely, so I've learned a lot of things, and I'm sure that worked for me that I can also share. Like, first thing is you need to have a dedicated workspace, or have a specific area for work, even if it's just a small desk. So it could create a mental boundary between work and your personal life. And then second one is having regular breaks. So to stay energized and then avoid burnout, like what I've said earlier, we can use the Pomodoro technique, where we focus for 25 minutes and then do 5-minute break, and then back to work for 25 minutes, then 5-minute break. And then last one is we should maintain open communication with our teammates, and then keeping them updated. Because it's easy to get lost while you're working remotely. So updates and regular progress checks are very important.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I guess different time zones as well means that you only get a certain amount of time, like live time with your colleagues sometimes. So it's important that
Yeah.
during those kind of periods where you're both online, that you're interacting and things. So no, I really appreciate that. And that's really useful for me to know as well, and kind of like I can look at some of those things. Um, and I guess, I mean, something that makes our life easier is having kind of clear objectives. So we talked about our weekly Monday calls and Thursday calls, but also, so we use our recruitment platform called Bullhorn, where you can set kind of weekly kind of metrics that each individual has, I guess, kind of goals and targets for the week. So we know that, okay, this is one person's specific task,
Mm-hmm.
and you can then see how you're performing against that task throughout the week. So I think setting clear objectives for each person is very important. So then when we get to the end of the week, we can review and see how you're getting on, and kind of help kind of say well done in certain areas and things. So it's really good. Um, and that all comes down to communication. So I think when you first hire someone in a remote role, it's having that clear discussion about what are your objectives, what's the goal of the role, what are going to be the regular touch points, like the time frame for, yeah, probably formal kind of catch ups, but also it's the nice informal ones. Um, I mean, you and I obviously message all the time on Slack, and
Yeah.
Slack's our main tool. And then we don't speak as often as we should, kind of like this, like apart from obviously our weekly, our 2 calls. And then if we have a search, obviously, then we go through that in more detail. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so another thing I would mention is when you recruit someone that's going to be remote, I would definitely introduce them to the wider team as early as possible. even during the interview process if possible. So like they get like you get a taste of who's going to be joining, or we can then obviously get your opinion on who's going to be working. And it's that icebreaker's already been made. So then once they start, you can just message each other, message the new person, rather than waiting for formal sort of setups. So that's a nice little tip, which I've think has been quite helpful over the years. Um, and I guess guidelines as well, just kind of having some remote work guidelines is important, because when I used to work sometimes from home back in my agency days, I'd always feel like I was like, oh God, they're going to think I'm not working. Like you have
Hmm. Yeah.
this pressure on you. Like unless you're on the phone or messaging them or something, there's always this feeling like they probably don't think I'm working. So I think you kind of need to get that out of your head, and I guess that comes with trust and accountability. So, and that's why we have those kind of metrics at the end of the day, and we with those key wins, because we know you've shared some achievement things. So do you ever feel like that? Do you ever feel like, oh, I wonder if he thinks, what am I doing?
Yeah. I always overthink it.
you don't
It's
need
like
to, honestly.
maybe maybe Callum is thinking I'm not working.
No, I know you do a great job. I never think that, but like, but then there's been instances where you look at people's stats and they haven't sent any emails for a whole day. They haven't done any calls. It doesn't look like anything's been kind of physically done. Whereas in fact, in the background, they may have been working really hard, just spending ages on a search, like on LinkedIn or something. And because they haven't physically added anything to the system, or kind of like spoken to anyone, it looks like they haven't done any work. So it's a balance. And as I said, you need some strong guidelines to kind of, so people know, okay, what's expected of you. And also, I guess a bit of just general etiquette, like just nice little things of
Yeah.
saying morning every day, like even if it's someone's afternoon, just say, hey, good morning, or hey, how was your weekend? Those little touch points mean a lot. And I can often tell if something's up if someone doesn't say morning or whatever. You kind of think, oh, what's up with them? So yeah, no, it's good. So that's my kind of sort of 2 cents. We've talked about the mental health side. Um, it can be very lonely, so you want to try and have those regular touch points, as we said. And I guess just sometimes it's helpful to have an outside perspective. It can probably be a little bit suffocating always speaking to your manager. Maybe sometimes you can have like an external advisor or someone that can talk to your team members, or even if obviously if you're in a bigger company, you just perhaps introduce them to another team member that might be able to share their insights and that type.
Mhm.
Okay, so for now, I think that's pretty much most of my my thoughts. I know we touched upon the fact that obviously your productivity tools and the way that you kind of structure your work, it sounds awesome, and it seems to be working really well. We talked about celebrating successes with the team. So,
Mhm.
when we get, so for example, whenever we get a new job in or a new interview, it goes on our automated kind of like team email. So everyone can see who's got an interview, or who's done a placement, that type of thing. So that way we're all kind of like sharing the success. Um,
Mhm.
good. So is there anything else you'd like to kind of, discuss, Mika, or anything else you'd like to mention?
Mm. Oh, another one is, I think, for remote workers, another tip I forgot to mention earlier is you can try sometimes to go out. Like for example, when I have a cabin fever, experience cabin fever, I usually go to coffee shops and then I work there, or sometimes I rent a co-working space where I also meet other freelancers like me that works with international clients. So I always try to network with them so we can share experiences, and then so sometimes they also give tips on how I can avoid the burnout and feel lonely whenever I'm home. So that's it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and definitely is so helpful to have a little workspace, somewhere you can get to,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, especially if you're not going to be on the phone or video call, somewhere it
Hmm.
doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if it's quite loud, because you can just put your headphones on and just work away. And then, as you say, just general interaction with people, saying hello to people in the morning and
Yeah.
whatever is nice, and just fresh air, going for a walk, like making sure you take the time out of your day to do that. And nowadays it's so easy. Like I mean, like Slack we have on our mobiles and everything, and you
Hmm.
can. I mean, obviously, I'm in America now, so you can work anywhere in the world in recruitment. It's great. You don't have to
Yeah.
be in one physical location. So we're always online if need be. But then again, it's very important to take that break and make sure you do shut off, as you say. Um,
Hmm.
Especially if your desk is in your bedroom. I couldn't do that. Obviously, some people they have no choice, but like
Yeah.
that's why we're doing this recording today in here. I got here at 5:30 a.m. because my home office is at the moment the kids are there and everything is all chaos. So we were doing this here. So you have to sort of work with your what you can essentially. But no, thank you so much, Micha. I hope this has been helpful to our audience and anyone that employs or manages a remote work team, and any remote workers themselves that are thinking, you know what, actually, maybe there's some adjustments I can make to my lifestyle to help improve my well-being and maybe my productivity, that sort of thing. So, yeah, thank you, Micha, for joining us. And pleasure, as I said, as always, to speak to you. And tune in for next episode. And thank you again for all your support for the channel.